Hello, everyone. Hope you're enjoying the conference so far. So, mine's going to be not as technical. My talk will be power up your team, soft skills that level up in game development collaboration. When it comes to developing games and putting yourself out there, it does take some confidence to create the best game ever. So, great games aren't just coded; they're crafted through connection. So, why does this talk matter? Um, show show how technical focus often overshadows human factors, but the latter determine project success. So most teams focus on tools, tech, and pipelines, yet burnout, miscommunication, and rework often stem from people issues. Soft skills prevent costly breakdowns and crunch. The better we communicate, the better we collaborate, create, and deliver. So it's not always just about the technical skills, it's also about the people skills because in the end, it's people who will use the games, and our ideas is what brings to life the games that we have today. So every studio has incredible technical talent, but great games are made by know how to work together. Oh, by people who know how that work together. Sorry, the little slide part is kind of covering it. All right, so the hidden XP in game development, soft skills increase the effectiveness of all technical skills. So communication would lead to fewer misunderstandings, smoother production, trust equals faster problem solving and less micromanagement. Empathy is less friction across roles. Self leadership equals better energy, management, and focus. Psychological safety equals more creative risk taking. These are your team synergy stats, the difference between chaos and cohesion. I think this is so important, especially because I read a report somewhere that they mentioned only 9% of the workforce live up to their full potential. So that means there's over 91 people in the workforce that have confidence issues that don't work up to their full potential. And if we all had the confidence to create different things, create different games, have the teamwork, everybody wins. So this is why it's so important to incorporate this. So it's not just only about the technical skills, it's about the people skills, the human skills that contribute to have the games that we have today. So here's some common game dev pitfalls. Identify real world team challenges everyone has faced. So misaligned communication, such as assumptions instead of clarity. So I don't know if any of you have gone through that. Feedback that triggers defensiveness instead of growth. Crunch that leads to burnout. Siloed teams, designers, coders, artists not in sync, lack of clarity on ownership and deliverables. So, if you've ever gone through that, I'm sure this is something that you've probably dealt with before, and this is some of the pitfalls why things don't work out the way they do. So, most of these issues aren't because of skill gaps, they're people and process gaps. So, in the end, it's the people, the team that you're with, having good communication is so important. Being able to have feedback is so important, and working together is also very important and being clear. Why are you creating this game? What is the goal? Why do you want to do what you do? So here's the visible framework. This is something that I created based on my own journey, just being able to put myself out there, being visible, because I believe being visible is how we create the opportunities, right? If you have a game out there that's popular, everyone wants to play it, right? Like my nephews, they love playing Roblox, which almost every other kid likes playing. And so it's also important when it comes to teamwork, game development, and just your personal journey. So the visible framework is the seven soft skill pillars that help teams collaborate consciously and sustainably. And so each letter stands for something. So V is for voice, which is speak clearly, assertively, and respectfully. Number two is I for identity, know who you are and what you bring. S is spotlight, celebrate and recognize others. I is inner work, build emotional resilience and self awareness. Belief, cultivate trust in yourself and the team. Leverage is use influence to enable other success. And elevation, grow others as you grow yourself. So this framework helps you become visible, not just a contributor, but as a collaborator. And I'll go through each letter a little bit deeper as we go through the slides. So, voice. Communicate with confidence. Effective communication prevents misunderstandings, strengthens relationships, and drives alignments. So speak from ownership, such as I notice or I need instead of blame. Summarize meeting outcomes to confirm alignment. Replace reactive responses with clarifying questions. Practice feedback models like SBI, situation, behavior, and impact. I think it's so important to be okay to share your voice, to share your ideas, to share your opinions, because that's how we can have new ideas, new innovations. I know there's a lot of people out there who still get um, scared, right? Scared to share their ideas, scared to speak up. I've spoken to a lot of people where they want to share something in a meeting and are too afraid, and they don't realize the person beside them has said the same idea and was praised for it. So I want you to be able to communicate with confidence, share your ideas. If you have any questions, be okay to ask them. There's no such thing as a stupid question. So when the build wasn't updated, it delayed QA, and then let's clarify the update with rhythm. So that's an example. So start voicing, communicate with confidence. Identity, own your role. Clarity on your own identity strengthens teamwork by reducing confusion and overextension. So, know your creative superpowers and blind spots. Define your boundaries early, such as hours, focus blocks, communication norms. Document ownership clearly. Avoid everyone thought someone else was doing it. Advocate for your expertise respectfully in cross discipline meetings. I think, sometimes we're so afraid to share who we are, what we're good at, what we're not good at. But I think it's important to identify our skills and talents that we can bring to the table so that we can learn to work our expertise to create the best product ever, to create the best um, game ever. I mean, for so long, I was afraid of my own identity. I didn't feel like I was good enough to be on stage, to speak, to write books, to have a platform. But the more I embraced my identity, the more I was able to stand out and share this type of information in different industries, not just in game development. And so when you know who you are, you reduce chaos and help others trust your part of the process. So celebrate collaboration. Recognition fuels engagement and encourages creative contributions. So and highlight team and cross disciplines wins regularly. Use use retrospectives to reflect positively before addressing problems. Be specific in praise, connect it to impact. Your lighting work set the tone perfectly for the story beat. Create rituals of gratitude, such as Friday shoutouts, demo days, and kudos. So I think it's important to celebrate every win that you have, right? Sometimes we think we can only celebrate it when we hit that big goal, but it's really important to celebrate each and every one of them. So maybe just coming up with the idea in the beginning, that's important. Having a celebration Fridays is important. Doing this as a routine helps us be seen, helps us realize what we have achieved, whether it's alone or as a team. So when you give credit, you multiply motivation. So for me, I've learned to just start creating little wins here and there. I'll have a book that I have writing all my wins because for me it's so important to look back at it when I have days where I don't feel great, when I'm not as confident. And so it's really important to share that. And I know sometimes we think the little things that we do don't mean much, but actually, those mean more than the big wins because it's all those little spotlights that you have that help you get to the level that you want to be in. So I inner work, manage human stuff, right? Game game development is high stress. Soft skills begin with inner stability. So recognize your stress signals and regulate before reacting. Reflect instead of react during creative conflicts. Use breathing or pause techniques during the crunch. Journal learnings after setbacks to build emotional stamina. A lot of the things that we go through starts from our inner self, right? And this is probably not something that's typical to talk about in game development, but it is important to work through this, right? A lot of the things that we do comes from the way we think, how we see ourselves, our mindset. So it is really important to take care of yourself. Have days where you can um, this is something where we could find 5 minutes of our time to just de-stress or decompress or just set time for yourself. Even if you need to go to the bathroom is to shout, just do it, right? Because especially when you're in a high stress work environment, you're going to need time to uh, just have some time for yourself, some self-care routine. So whatever that looks like for you. It can be just watching a YouTube video, it can be taking a walk, it can be talking to someone. This inner work is really important to do because in order to create the best product out there, to create the best games, to be the most innovative, it has to come from within. Sometimes, there's things in our life that still haunts us still today when we don't work through it properly. So, especially if trauma is something you've never worked through, it can linger onto our adult life. So, something that I usually share with the audience is that in kindergarten in the Philippines, I failed kindergarten for coloring outside the lines of a photo. And that actually went on to my adult life. So, for so long, I always thought anything I touch was an instant failure because of that one moment in time where I failed kindergarten for coloring outside the lines of a photo. Like the teacher failed me. I had to redo kindergarten, move to another school, and redo kindergarten all over again. And so that really affected me into my mid 30s. And I realized that I wasn't a failure. I was just always meant to work outside the lines, color outside the lines, do something different. And so this inner work is important. It's something that you have to work on every single day. And so inner work isn't selfish, it's leadership from the inside out. So whatever that inner work looks for you, just start whether it's reading a book, listening to podcasts, attending talks like this, um, you know, talking to somebody, having a coach, having an accountability partner, uh, have it because it's so important. Next is belief. Belief is so important, right? Building psychological safety. People innovate best when they feel safe to fail, ask, and experiment. So model vulnerability, share your mistakes first, reward effort and learning, not just outcomes, encourage respectful disagreement, diversity of ideas drives innovation, create norms for curiosity. So, can you tell me more about your reasoning? I think belief is so important, especially in the work that you're doing, right? You're trying to come up with something innovative, something different, something that people would love to try and play. And sometimes, we want to share that idea, but we feel like that idea might not be good enough because of how we see ourselves. We don't believe in our capabilities. We don't believe in our talents when we are more than capable. And especially when you're in the game dev development, working as a team, you're going to go through more failures than success, right? You're going to try something, it doesn't work, you move on to the next. I mean, most people who created something successful, especially in tech, had a lot of failures before hitting that success part. And so, seeing failure as something good instead of something bad is really important. Being vulnerable, being able to say, hey, I made a mistake, I screwed up, because we're all human. We're all going to make mistakes. It's not the end of the world. We can always pivot as you go. Like, even in my book, which I talk about, my latest book, I talk about the importance of ready, fire, aim. So, you just take action, start before you're ready, take action and course correct as you go. That's how we can get results. And I think it's important to build this belief. It's not only in ourselves, but also our team, right? Because if you don't build that belief in the team, they're not going to feel motivated to create something new, to come up with a new idea. Having that safe space where they can make mistakes, where they can fail forward is so important because nothing works the first time you do something, right? It's very rare, and so this is really important as well because without this belief, nothing happens. And so it is important to build that belief in yourself, belief in your team, belief in others, so that you can come up with the best game, the best product out there. So when people feel safe, they'll bring you their best, not just their safest ideas. Leverage, use your influence well, right? Every team member can shape culture and outcomes. So share documentation and insights openly, encourage inclusivity, invite quieter voices to speak, model healthy work habits. Others will mirror them. Use your credibility to protect team health and clarity, right? A lot of us think we have to do this alone, but having a team is so important, and utilizing that to have the best experience is so important. Also, having diverse voices is also important because, I mean, I live in Toronto, which is one of the most diverse cities in the world. We have everybody from different cultures. We have different food festivals in the summer where we can try literally any cuisine from every country. And it's what I love about being in Toronto, that we can all live cohesively together, even though we come from different cultures. And so, of course, you want to create something that, of course, we're not going to be able to. Um, please every single person, but if it helps majority of it's great, right? And having different voices, different ideas is how we can create different solutions. And so, yeah, sometimes there's a person beside you who you probably think, something is wrong with them because they don't want to speak up. But really, sometimes they're just really shy to speak up. So maybe you just kind of need to give them a helping hand to say, "Hey, I'd love to learn what your input is on this," right? Sometimes you might have to make the first move to get that input so they feel a little bit better in speaking up and sharing ideas. And so, be able to create that space. So, leverage isn't power for others, it's power for the team. Elevation, level up together. When everyone grows, team evolve faster and deliver better work. Offer feedback, focus on development, not criticism. Mentor across disciplines, fresh perspectives, cross pollinate ideas. Celebrate progress, recognize iteration, not just launch. Build systems that lift others, such as peer coaching, shared learning. I think this is so important, the celebrating progress, because a lot of us just want to celebrate the end result, not realizing it's the journey, the process, the progress that matters the most. Because you go from one idea and then all these little different stages in the development process, and we don't realize that it's because of these small steps that yield to the end result. So it's really important to celebrate each and every progress, because it also builds the team up, it motivates them, it makes them want to work on it even more. I mean, these little things make a huge difference, right? And for me, I've seen that where when teams are often celebrated, it's just a better work environment and there's better production. And of course, when you have better production in companies, there's more money for everybody. And so find different ways to start elevating together, right? Whether it's celebrating process, building systems, having a safe space where people can chat or people can share their ideas. I think it's so important. So elevation is how we turn collaboration into legacy. This is not just about a team; it's about what you're leaving in this world, right? Maybe you've created the best game in the world and you could be part of that success, right? So it goes beyond just building teams and collaboration. It's about building legacy, leaving a footprint, showing others what's possible when you level up together. So, applying this in the studio, translate visible principles into daily studio practices. So, communication loops, improve stand ups, retros, and cross discipline syncs, self leadership, create personal systems to manage focus and stress, psychological safety, adopt norms that encourage often feedback and curiosity. Cultural rituals build small but consistent teams, habits for connection. So, these are, I think, all very important. Communication is very important, especially when you're working together as a team. I think constant communication is important so that nothing gets left behind or there's no miscommunication. So, create that, whether it's through a Slack chat or whatever tool that your work uses, or even just having your own group chat, something like that, or an email thread. Self leadership, just don't be afraid to make that first move, right? I know sometimes we're really afraid, but when we can share our ideas, put ourselves out there, it helps other people as well. Psychological safety, of course, having safe workspaces is so important. Like I mentioned, it can be a high stress environment, and so you want to be able to work in a place where you can de-stress, you can take the stress away, you can reset and recharge, so you can show up even better, right? Because if you're working 10 to 15 hours straight a day, you just get super exhausted and it demotivates you. So having these um, safe spaces is important, where you can also have open feedback and curiosity, and building rituals, right? Building good habits to create the best product ever, right? So, like I mentioned, creating progress habits, celebrating wins, um, building, belief in your team. These are all important. So, this is not just about one big change, it's about the tiny, consistent power ups, right? I always say the big results happen when you take those small, actionable daily steps. And I always tell people Rome wasn't built in a day, so don't expect yourself to do the same, right? It just takes one step to start that. So here's some of the big takeaways. Soft skills are the new meta in game development. So soft doesn't mean secondary, they're essential, especially with in the world of AI, as AI is getting bigger and just this new updates all the time. These soft, once we're known as soft skills, are needed now more than ever. So having confidence, having leadership, emotional intelligence, resilience, these are all needed because in the end we're all human and we're going to need this more now than ever. This is something that we're going to focus on. So don't be afraid to start utilizing that, right? Learning more on how to build your confidence, your leadership, your resilience. Stronger communication means stronger collaboration and stronger games, right? All these steps are important to create the best game ever. So when you have better communication, it becomes you have better collaboration with your team. And when you can work together in a happy environment, you have better results. And human skills future proof your team against burnout and turnover. So, like I mentioned, like using the framework, um, build those human skills so that it can help your teams from burnout and high stress and misalignment and miscommunication. And so the best studios know building stronger games start with building stronger teams. So in the end, it's people that build this. We have the tech to create it, but it's up to us to build it and put it out into the world. And so here's a call to action, empower attendees to apply. Let's empower each other to apply the visible framework in your daily work. So here's some questions I'm going to ask you. How can you use your voice today to bring clarity? How can your belief lift your team this week? How can your studio become more visible together? And, just choose one letter from visible and start applying it today. So I hope that you've been able to enjoy this, have a little bit of learn something new to help you start your journey or keep going or utilize this framework to help you create the best games ever, create the best teams ever and collaborations. And if anyone would like a copy of this presentation, I can also send it out to you. Just go to sheenayapchan.com/presentations. You can fill out the information and we'll send it straight into your inbox. And so here's a quote that I want to leave with you. Power up your people and you power up your game. And so that's the end of the presentation. You can also connect with me on this barcode that has all my social media, my books, my websites, and other resources to help you in your confidence journey, and also a visible framework toolkit that you can use as well. So if anybody has some questions, I know we have a couple of minutes left. I wanted to make sure that we were on time so that there's no delays. But yeah, if there's any questions, they can share it in the chat or I could ask the co-hosts.
Yeah, thanks, Sheena. That was great. I really do appreciate the message that comes across from this. I think soft skills are very much important. For all the reasons you've just been listing there. It's a very important part of working in a group and in a team, I think. I was just wondering if you have any advice on how you could build a team that follows these kind of ideas. I think there's one thing for it to come from yourself, but if you've got to want to have it as a bit of a team culture, what would
Yeah.
you suggest?
I mean, I think having like a toolkit is important. So, I've created like a framework, like a visible framework toolkit that people can use. It's free that they can download, but I think having open conversations is important. Saying, "Hey, we're going to try this out. We're going to see what works, what doesn't work. We can tweak it to our liking." Because each and everyone in the team is not the same, right? They're all different. This is just a framework. It's not like the end of all ends. This is something that can we can work towards and kind of interchange it to our benefit. So picking the things, maybe you want to pick one letter that you want to work on with. So let's say like inner work, right? Let's start with that. Like let's work on what's stopping us from stepping into our greatness, right? Maybe there's something in our lifetime that really was traumatic and now people don't realize when something traumatic happens, our brain protects us, right? So let's like me, like I failed kindergarten for coloring outside the lines. Like every time I do something, my brain is basically telling me, listen, I don't want you doing this because remember when you were 5 years old and you failed kindergarten for coloring outside the lines? Well, that's what I'm stopping you from. But we have to also like basically tell our brain like what happened when I was 5 is not happening 20 years from now. So
Mm,
maybe it's just starting with one letter that everyone like majority agrees to work on and kind of go from there, but they can always tweak it to their liking.
mhm. No, I like that. I think that's very powerful. We've had a comment in the chat as well. Someone's asking about the identity section. You're mentioning advocating for your own expertise, but how would you avoid sounding like you're exaggerating?
I mean, that's a great question. I think sometimes we tend to overthink a lot of things. I know because I was like that, but also showing proof is important, right? So that you're not exaggerating. It's like, look, because of what I suggested, sales have gone up 20%. So that shows that you are an expert at it because you were able to grow the company's revenue or have better productivity or better work culture, right? I think adding proof to it is important because you're going to be like, "Hey, I'm good at this." It's like, "Okay, they people want okay, like, that's it, right? People will be like, okay, you're great at it. That's great." But if you say, "Hey, this is my expertise and this is my proof. Here's the charts. Here's what happened 2 months before I applied it and 2 months after I applied it and see the increase," then people can see that, right? You got to talk in results. People need to see, unfortunately, for some people, they need to see it for it to work and see, like, yes, you are the person for this. You are the person who is an expert in this topic or in this skill.
Yeah, sorry, we've just lost Alex for a minute there. Sorry, technical
Okay.
difficulty. We were having too many technical difficulties. Yeah, to follow up on that, I think uh, what was the point I was going to say? Confidence. Confidence. I think it's it's very valid to have confidence in your own abilities when you have that kind of thing to back it up. You know, it's right and it's good to be confident in the things that you know that you have and you have proved that you can do as well.
Yeah. So, so like for me, like if people ask like, what makes you such an expert on confidence? It's like, well, I have a podcast where I've interviewed over 800 women on the topic of confidence. I've written 2 books on confidence, and I've spoken at many industries talking about confidence. So
Mhm.
there's all that proof. So now, I'm just not lying. I'm showing them, hey, this is all the things that I've done. So, so I hope that helps out with the question who was asking if it's exaggerated. And sometimes we just overthink everything, so we just had to like silence the noise so that we just keep moving forward.
Yeah. What was just another?
And so I
Yeah.
see another question. So if you scan my barcode, I do have a visible framework toolkit that you can use to help cultivate in yourself. So it's a free tool.
There we go. I think that helps answer the questions in the chat there. I also kind of wanted to ask about external pressures because it feel the that toolkit's felt very much like about you kind of growing your own skills and your own confidence and everything. But obviously, external pressures can have well, they can sometimes have a very negative effect on you. You know, so like the game dev industry, for example, is known for crunch in many places. So when you how can you kind of work around this while also dealing with these negative external pressures?
Yeah, I think this is why it's so important to work on yourself. Like that inner work is really important because I mean, yes, we can be easily swayed by external pressures, right? External forces. Like social media can be a huge like mind manipulation, right? We see like people who like, oh, they're so successful, they were able to make money in 30 days and here I am still trying to make $1 on day 88. So this is why it's so important to work on yourself, to know, to work through those issues, and also have setting boundaries. I know it's easier said than done, but it is
Mm,
important to set those boundaries, right? And we have to look at these timelines realistically too. I know it's easier said than done. I totally get it. I'm not in the game development in this like industry, but we look at this deadline. Does this make sense? Will it help us and the client, or will it be worse? So sometimes we also have to look at that, and maybe if we need to just delay it a little bit to um to help everybody, not just the people creating it, but also, maybe not everyone's waiting for it yet. Maybe we need to add something else to have a better launch or something, right?
Mhm.
Um, that's one. No, two, working on yourself is important. Having personal development every single day so it helps you calm yourself. And then setting aside some self-care, right? I know that's probably not like typical in game development, but even if it's 5 minutes, like not even like 5 minutes of your time, I think everyone can spare, right? Whether it's just looking at something on your phone or just taking a walk or just even like taking a breather, right?
Mhm.
Just
Or
start really small.
playing a
Like,
game.
yeah. Yeah, play a game, right?
You know, I'm not sure entirely that's gonna help, but,
Yeah.
yes, yes, exactly. I also wanted to ask, you did the section you had on, sort of applying this kind of thing with, cultural rituals. I wonder if you could you could give us a couple of examples of what kind of cultural rituals you could do to, to try and sort of cement this and help this kind of framework grow.
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, right? Like, having like maybe winning Wednesdays, sharing one win that you have, I think is so important because a lot of us don't share our wins enough. We only share it when we have the end goal, right? Like
Yeah.
when we've created the game, but not the in between. And the in between is way more, I believe the in between is way more important than the end game because if it wasn't for the in between parts, you wouldn't have a game developed today. So even having that, shouting out, having spotlights, having, circles where people can talk about, just what they're struggling with, especially when you're in game development, sometimes you're working on something and you're so frustrated because you're trying to get something to work and then it's not working, and sometimes you just need, like, a circle to talk about it, and there's maybe someone else in the team that can say, "Hey, you know what? I can help you with that," right? So, because a lot of us feel like even though we're in a team, we still feel alone. So really creating that team ritual, even like just let's have a coffee session. Like you just go have coffee with each other and just talk to each
Mhm.
other because it just builds that relationship with your team members and it helps the collaboration become better, right? Because in the end we're all human. We're not robots. We have things that we go through outside the work, right? And sometimes we don't even know that they're going through something. So, yeah.
Mhm. No, I think that's a good idea. We do actually have within JetBrains, we've got a random donut session, which people can sign up to, and you kind of then just say, right, I'm going to have a break and a donut, and you end up just having essentially a coffee break with somebody, and it could be anybody, which is
Yeah.
quite fun because you can then might be somebody who you'd never normally speak to, and you end up having a 10 or 15-minute chat with them, and you get to meet them, you get to know them perhaps a little, and yeah, it helps to talk to someone new, to listen to someone, what else they might be doing, and so on. So, yeah, I think these kind of cultural things are important as well.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
I hope that helps
Okay. Well,
out.
thank you very much for your session there. I do think that the soft skills are very important in this kind of an industry. Well, in all industries, to be fair, and very much appreciated what you had to say there. So,
Thank you so
thank you.
much. Yeah, thanks everyone. Hope you have a great
Yeah.
day.
Thank you
Thanks a lot.
now.
Bye
Take
now.
care.
Bye.
Bye bye.